The Linux kernel is just massive. It's one of the biggest software projects on the entire planet. We're talking millions of lines of code, thousands of people contributing, and it runs on literally everything from your phone to massive supercomputers. But with that kind of scale, you get a huge challenge. What happens when something, somewhere deep inside, actually breaks? Well, let's dive in. So here's what we're going to cover. We'll start with that moment a bug shows up. Then we'll get into the single most important rule in all of kernel development. After that, we'll walk through a quick pre-flight checklist, show you exactly how to send in your report, and finally, we'll follow that report all the way from your outbox to a permanent fix in the kernel. All right, so picture this. You're working, maybe you're gaming, or you just turned on your machine, and bam! Everything just locks up. Your screen fills with a bunch of text that looks like complete gibberish. You've just run into a kernel bug, a really serious error deep down in the heart of your operating system. It's a pretty jarring thing to see, and your first thought is probably, uh-oh, what do I do now? But see, this weird text, what developers call a kernel oops, it isn't just random garbage. It's actually a flare gun. The kernel is signaling for help, and it's telling you exactly where it got hurt. This stack dump is like a digital footprint, and for a developer, it's basically a treasure map that leads right to the source of the problem. And that brings us to the real heart of the matter. When you see a bug in a project this huge, it's so easy to just assume, somebody else will find it, someone else will fix it. But the truth is, the whole system is designed for you to be that first line of defense. So the question is, how do you turn that crash into a real contribution? To really get why your bug report is so incredibly important, you first have to understand the core philosophy of kernel development. It all boils down to one simple but super powerful principle that guides almost everything they do. And that key idea is called a regression. To put it simply, if something used to work just fine, and then you updated your kernel and now it's broken, boom, that's a regression. It can be anything, really. Maybe your Wi-Fi won't connect anymore, or a game suddenly runs way slower, or maybe your whole computer won't even boot. And look, this isn't just some casual guideline. This is the prime directive, coming straight from the top, from Linus Torvalds himself. The no regressions rule means that fixing things that used to work for users is the absolute top priority, above pretty much anything else. Your report is like a 5-alarm fire that something has gone very wrong. Okay, so you found a bug, and now you know it's a really big deal. You're ready to report it. But just hold on a second. Before you fire off that email, there's a quick pre-flight checklist you've got to run through. Getting these 3 things right will make your report 1,000 times more effective. First, you have to try to confirm the bug on an official upstream kernel from kernel.org. That's because developers can only fix the code they control. Second, do a quick search on the mailing list to see if somebody else already reported it. And third, and this one is absolutely critical, figure out the exact steps to make the bug happen again. A bug that can't be reproduced is almost impossible to fix. And that leads to this idea of a tainted kernel. See, if your kernel has loaded some proprietary driver, like from a graphics card, or if it's already hit other errors, it gets a taint flag. A report from a tainted kernel is tricky because the bug might be in that outside code. But a bug you can trigger on an untainted, pure, upstream kernel, now that is the absolute gold standard for a bug report. All right, checklist complete. You've confirmed the bug on an upstream kernel, you've checked that it's a new issue, and you can make it happen whenever you want. Now for the fun part. This is where you go from just being a user to being a contributor. This is the one question that stops so many people dead in their tracks. I mean, the kernel is gigantic. There are thousands of developers working on all of these different parts. You can't just send an email to, linux@kernel.org. So how in the world do you find the right people who are actually in charge of the code that's broken? Well, luckily, the kernel source code itself gives you the answer. There's this brilliant little script inside called getmaintainer.pl. You just point it at the source file where you think the bug might be, and it spits out exactly who the maintainers are and which mailing list you need to send your report to. It's like a magic phone book for the entire project. So what do you actually put in the report? Well, think of it like you're building a complete toolkit for the developer. You need to include the exact kernel version, your build configuration file, the full log from the dmess command, your step-by-step guide to make it crash, details about your hardware, and of course that oops message from the very beginning. And get this whole massive worldwide collaboration, it all happens over email. Yep, plain old email. You'll send one single, well-written email to all the people and lists that the script gave you.
And that one email kicks off a public conversation where developers from all over the world can jump in and help figure out a fix.
Okay, you did it. You crafted the perfect bug report, and you hit send. Your part is pretty much done. But for the bug itself, well, its journey is just getting started. Let's take a quick look at what happens next.
So your email lands and kicks off a discussion. Developers might reply asking you for more info or maybe to test a patch they've whipped up. Someone will dig in, find the root cause, and write up a fix. That fix gets reviewed by other developers, then the subsystem maintainer accepts it, and eventually Linus Torvalds himself merges it into the main kernel. From there, it even gets backported to older, stable kernels, fixing the bug for millions of other people.
And you should always remember this. When you take the time to write a really good, high-quality bug report, you are doing something incredibly valuable. You're not just fixing a little problem for yourself. You're actually improving the kernel for everyone. It's a type of contribution that is genuinely, deeply respected in the developer community.
So, the next time your system acts up, don't just sigh and hit the reboot button. You actually have the power to make the world's biggest software project just a little bit better. You have the tools, you know the process, so the only real question left is, what will you report?